Bernard Tobin here at the Advanced Crop Nutrition Forum. I'm catching up now with Leanna Nigon from the Fertilizer Institute. She's the Director of Agronomy and Research. Leanna, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to talk to you about fertilizer and how important it is to our world, to our agronomic and agricultural landscape.
Tariffs, obviously, a big conversation. TFI made a statement just after President Trump announced that he was intending to sort of have a 25% tariff across the board. That poses some challenges for farming and your industry. Give us a little snapshot of, I guess, that challenge that is from an import perspective on NP and K and those core macronutrients.
Yeah, so tariffs on fertilizer is a big concern for TFI because we really promote free and open trade and making sure that that's available for our members, but also because it impacts the growers. And when we think about tariffs, really what we have our eyes on is potash. So we import about 98% of our potash fertilizers. So we need it to come into the country and we need that to be available for growers. And most of it is coming from Canada. Over 80% is coming from Canada. And so we really want and encourage the administration to work with our Canadian neighbors to really come to some type of resolution where we aren't having a tariff on something that is so valuable to our food supply. And so we're meeting with the administration quite often to talk about potash, but also nitrogen and phosphorus are really important too. Our DAP, we import about 50% of our DAP fertilizer, a major phosphorus fertilizer for especially the Corn Belt. And then for our nitrogen, about a third of urea and a third of some of our ammonia sulphate are also imported. And so we want to make sure that those types of resources are available to our growers at reasonable prices where they're not impacting the entire agricultural landscape and actually threatening our farmers.
You have a sense that the administration is open to those conversations?
Yeah, so they have been open to meeting with TFI, and so we've kept those lines of communication open to just explain to them the importance of fertilizer and basically the economic impact that it can have on the entire agronomic system. And really, food security is what we call, the backbone of all security of a nation. And so we really want to illustrate to them, when you disrupt the economics of the agricultural supply chain, you can have some larger impacts on the whole economy as well.
Yeah, lots of work on Capitol Hill these days. You also mentioned Robert F. Kennedy Jr. being appointed Human and Health Services head there. You need to sort of get the message out there about the importance of fertilizer and making sure that when it comes to growing food, we need access to fertilizer.
Absolutely. So RFK has put forth a lot of information about his opinions on regenerative agriculture and soil health. And we've actually seen senators, Senator Marshall propose that there should be a set of bills that are proposed that include language around soil health and regenerative ag. And I will say that the fertilizer industry, we are supportive of these aims towards sustainability, whether we call it sustainable ag, regenerative ag, or climate smart ag, or soil health. No matter how you want to label it, fertilizer fits into that equation. It's incredibly important that we keep our soils healthy, and part of that health is keeping an adequate amount of nutrient in the soils. Nutrients are not only used by the plants or the crops that we grow, but they're necessary for the microbes as well. So part of having that healthy soil biota, those healthy plants, is having a very healthy fertilized soil. And so these are the types of things that we are trying to teach others who are maybe not as familiar with agriculture, that really the science and the research shows that fertilizer is part of having healthy soil.
Yeah, let's talk about agronomy, a different subject, maybe turn the page. That's really your focus. Let's talk about 4R nutrient stewardship, a big push for this organization.
Yeah, so 4R nutrient stewardship essentially stands for the 4 rights the right rate, the right source, the right time, and the right place in how you are applying your nutrients. And we know from the research that if you can optimize some of these practices, especially for certain nutrients like nitrogen or phosphorus, it can really help us with our environmental outcomes. So we can see major reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. We can see reductions in leaching of nitrates when we apply these principles correctly. And so we really want growers to understand this and to help them implement that using precision agriculture. And then also we want our policymakers to understand this and our public to understand this so that they can get behind supporting the responsible use of fertilizer, which fertilizer roughly feeds 50% of our world. It's really important. We can't just cut that out or reduce the food supply by 50%. So in order to do this and do it responsibly in a way that helps our environment, we can employ something like for our nutrient stewardship.
Another thing you talked about today here at the Mosaic meeting at the forum, certified biostimulant program. Biostimulants, biologicals, a lot of talk of a lot of growers using it now, and a lot of call for, some standards, some quality control. You've taken it upon this organization to do that. Tell us about that program.
Yeah, so a group of industry individuals who are studying biostimulants or creating biostimulant products, we all really came together, and there's roughly 100 people in the part of this committee or coalition that came together to help really iron out some standards around this industry as a whole. It's kind of been considered the Wild West before this. And what they outlined was 3 key areas that they wanted to focus on for standards: efficacy, composition, and safety. And so TFI, this is a long process for the industry really to come down to standards that we could all agree on. And there was also outside input from scientists and from regulators at the state level and state chemists who all, provided feedback in this program as well to also hit the regulatory check marks that we need within the states. So really the program is serving 2 groups. It's really helping with state regulation of these products and also helping provide retailers and growers some certainty in the quality around these products. So this launched about 6 months ago as a hard launch, and we've had about 7 products that have been approved and many more in the pipeline. And so we're looking forward to seeing how this develops, and hopefully it becomes a resource to a lot of our retailers and growers out there looking to sort through this place. One thing that I'll mention about the program, though, is that we're not guaranteeing that products work in every situation. I don't think that we can guarantee that. A lot of these products are very site-specific or specific to the weather or crops or specific soils. What we do check is that they are actually representing their product correctly. So they have tested the specific claims that are on their label. So their testing was not just measuring yield in a blind experiment, but rather if they're measuring nutrient use efficiency, they tested for nutrient use efficiency, for example. And so we do provide really that first level of quality control in this industry. And we're really proud to say, that this is a solid program that we can stand behind, that, there are companies that are doing the due diligence to get over those hurdles for the composition, the safety, and the efficacy testing methods.
Yeah, some great work, and so much work that you're doing that we're already scratching the surface here. One thing, I wanted to go full circle back to tariffs and back to the fact that, P&K and critical minerals, and, you're working on some efforts to actually establish them as critical minerals so you can speed up the development of new deposits, for example, new sources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one of the problems that we see a lot that our members are struggling with is getting the approvals that are required to open new mines for phosphorus and potassium in the United States. And what ends up happening is that the paperwork just gets shoved from agency to agency to agency, and really we don't see any forward momentum in these in the opening of new mines or new production facilities for P&K. And so what we are proposing is that phosphate and potassium, or potash, are added to the critical minerals list. And what this does is it would assign an agency to help shepherd these applications through the regulatory process. And so instead of taking, right now I know of companies who have been waiting 15 years to get their approvals to open up a mine. Instead of a 15-year timeline, shortening that down quite substantially to get these open within a few years. And that actually just, it secures our availability of these incredibly important fertilizer products if we can have more domestic production of P and K. And with the tariffs, it just becomes all the more important that we prioritize this.